Hello and welcome to another episode of Deep in the Plus. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys, as always, for being with us. We appreciate you. Again, business out of the way. Please subscribe to WDWNT TV for more great content, and please give this video a thumbs up as it helps people to find us. Tonight, we are talking about something very Christmassy. It's Christmas with Walt Disney with Desi. How are you?
Ho, ho, ho.
What did you call me? So... We, I appreciate you coming on and doing this, but you have a very strict contract writer, because you said to me, look, I will do a Christmas thing, but I'm not going to do, my original intent was to do the Simpsons Christmas special. And you were like, yeah, I will do something, but I'm not doing that. And then just before the show, you told me why you don't want to do the Christmas special from the Simpsons. And why is that?
Because I'm still angry that they took over the Back to the Future ride at Universal Studios, the greatest ride that Universal Studios ever had, and it was the start of the demise of the good Universal.
Oh, the Back to the Future going away was the start of the demise? Okay. Well, I mean, you're right. There was some really good stuff with the Jaws ride and the confrontation and, the Ghostbusters.
Studios.
Nickelodeon Studios, yeah. All the good stuff. I feel like, okay, so we're going to be talking about, and I mentioned this already, we're going to be talking about this that dropped. It's called Christmas with Walt Disney. It's from the Walt Disney Family Museum. It was the original, they were the original producer of this in 2009. And I thought what we would do is do it as a watch along. It's only 50 minutes, so and it's kind of all over the place too. I mean, we're calling it I'm labeling it a Christmas special, but it's really more of a Walt documentary, I feel like. But it jumps
so glad
around.
That you said.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so glad you said that it was originally in 2009, because I'm like, how did Diane Disney Miller narrate all of this?
Yeah.
Didn't she pass away?
She did in 2013.
They've just been holding on to this for this long. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
Yeah, that's what I thought, as a matter of fact, too, is Don Hahn was the director of this, and he just did something, I believe it was called The Road to 1923, that they showed at Destination D23 for the 100 Years of Disney. It was a great, great movie. I don't know where you watch it, but it was like this documentary about the Walt Disney brothers that he narrated, and it had all of this heart to it. And Don Hahn was associated with directing this as well, and Diane Disney Miller, as you mentioned, is the narrator of it. And I had the same question, honestly, because I was like, wait, this just dropped on Disney+, and I've never heard of Christmas with Walt Disney, and
right.
But again, because it was made for the Walt Disney Family Museum, Diane Disney Miller narrates it, and I guess they put it on Disney+, which I love. I love that they drop all this other content on Disney+, not just the shows like The Mandalorian and WandaVision, and not just the movies like The Naughty Nine, which I'm sure you've seen 150 times at this point. But also, and the old Disney stuff, but I want them to do more. We've talked about this before. I want the old Christmas parades on here. I want the in-room TV. I want all of it, to be on here. But that's a conversation we had on the anniversary episode we did a little while ago, and a conversation I'll continue to have. But let's talk about this one. Like I said, it's not really just a Christmas special. She narrates that she's talking about the Christmas relationship with Christmas with Walt. And, we are huge parks fans, and they do it up when it comes to Christmas in the parks. And I think probably after watching this, it seems like a lot of that is, because of Walt's love for Christmas. So we're going to do a watch along with this. Before we do, though, I feel like you've outpaced me here. So I feel like I need to... get into Christmas spirit a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch this and do a watch along. So you and I were trying to cue this up. I got a not a commercial, but kind of a commercial ahead of this. So we're going to start this 12 seconds in at where we have 50 minutes and 36 seconds left. That's where we are, right? We're at the same spot. It looks like this if you're playing along at home. So it's like right here. So we're going to start it from here, and 3, 2, wait. We're going to go on go. So 3, 2, 1, go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. So starting it up. When this opens, it opens up as if you're like flipping through channels and seeing different Disney things. And then it stops on this Coca-Cola commercial. And I'm just like, what is happening? What am I about to watch here? And it's this opening bit with Coca-Cola where it's Santa and he's unpacking his bag. But the brilliance of this is, you know, I guess they were really into movie magic and tricks and things like that. The brilliance is that they're making it look like the packages jump out of the bag, but it's really this dude Santa walking backwards and doing everything backwards and dropping things in, and I don't. It's very well done.
Something that he did very early on, like when he got his first video camera, he was doing this, taking videos of his niece doing things like splashing a bottle of milk on the ground and making it look like the milk is coming up into her hands instead.
Don't want to interrupt you, but this bit, I mean, I assume this is you at your house all the time, right? Just like, popping out of a box, bringing some drinks.
That is going to be my Jollywood outfit next year, no doubt.
I don't know. It's funny, but again, I kind of love this. It takes me back to the wonderful world of Disney, that kind of an intro. And then
I love this story too.
Yeah. So when they open up, and this bit right here, that animation is from Lady and the Tramp. But then they open this holiday time at Disneyland where Walt has his back to everybody and he's jumping around and it's just like he's in his own world, and I love that. I want to know that was Walt Disney. Like I wish, he's just some goofy dad with the goofy dad jokes, shaking his bell and hanging out.
Love it.
Yeah. It is so good with the carolers and everything in the snow. But he's just this is the most I've ever loved Walt ever, and I love Walt, but him just doing just shaking the bells is so cool. And it I just think back to there'll never be another Walt Disney, there'll never be another Jim Henson, there'll never be another George Lucas. There are these visionaries, and they had a sandbox to play in and could create and made their own path and made something magical. And it makes me sad that he passed away before I was born and didn't get to be in a world with Walt Disney in it. But it's, again, we get to relive it.
Also, happy belated birthday, Walt.
Yeah, we just missed Walt's birthday last week. So he brings in Tinkerbell to turn off the snow, and he's talking to Santa. And the funny part is these kids come up to get the autograph of Walt thinks it. I almost feel bad for Walt here. I know he's playing it off.
Walt.
I know he's playing it off. I know it's his, he's in on the joke, but he's they come up and they want Santa's autograph, and he gives him a pin. He's like, well, of course you go first. And then he's doing things under his breath, make sure you spell it right, stuff like that. I thought that was great. And I wonder how much of this was ad-libbed, or if he did it 82 different takes, or if there was a script. I don't know if some people can do that, just step up in front of the mic and just be awesome.
It looks like it was ad-libbed. Yeah. It looks, I think parts of it were scripted, where the kids come up and ask for Santa's autograph and not Walt's, but things like, make sure you spell it right. I feel like that's just something he ad-libbed.
And then you hear one of the little kids go, who was that guy? But I also think back to the story about how they said that, the Walt Disney signature, this is a story I don't know if you've heard, but the Walt Disney signature was designed by an artist. It wasn't his signature. And so he actually this is the story I heard, whether it's true or not. There's a lot of lore. He would go back to the animators and say, teach me how to, sign the way that, that you guys created it. So, I always think about that with the autographs. Then in this scene with the puppet, do you know who that puppet is? It's a ventriloquist dummy.
He looks like he's from Toy Story 4.
I was watching this with somebody and they were like, is that Howdy Doody? I'm like, no, that's not Howdy Doody. That's Charlie McCarthy. And
Vincent?
That makes me feel really old. Vincent. Yes.
Looks like Vincent from the worst Toy Story movie.
But yeah, right. But he turns to say something to the two girls next to him, and they say, he's our father. And that was the first time I had known I feel like Walt was pretty private with his daughters in his private life, but again, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know that. But it seems like he probably would have been pretty protective. Most famous people are protective of their kids. But in this case, it looks like that Sharon and Diane were, part of this show that was called an hour in or 1 hour in Wonderland. That's what that was from. The same thing that we saw the commercial from at the beginning. That's what that piece was from with Charlie McCarthy and Edgar Bergen. Look it up. It's a thing. The ventriloquist. So Diane Disney Miller starts narrating at this point, and she's talking about how great Christmas time was with her dad, and again, very sweet, and all the things she did. I want to talk about this in a little bit, but I feel like sometimes when she's talking, she sounds like she's out of touch.
What do you mean?
Like when she goes, I didn't get my own piano until I was a real piano until I was 7. I got a real watch when I was 7, and it's just like, do most kids get pianos and watches by the time they're 7? But she makes it sound like it was like
No,
we had to wait
I
till
don't
then to
think
get those things.
most kids get their own personal cottage in the backyard showing up magically overnight either.
We got to talk about that in a minute too. Yeah, like that's part of it. I love the bit where she says, like in all these videos, she's winking, and she said she must have gotten like direction from Dad, who must have said like, "Give us a wink" or something like that. So it's really cute to see those videos. And you know what? The house itself is seemingly very modest. And that was kind of the understanding I have looking back on things with Walt, is that he was very, I think, he spent a lot of money on travel, obviously a lot
Right.
of money on his business, but I think that his home life, usually except for like the big train in the
The
backyard
train.
kind of a
Yeah.
situation, I think it seemed like he was very, very had a very good life, but it's not like he had a castle or anything like that, which
Right.
he probably at some
Well,
points
I
in his
mean,
career could have had.
if he had lived
Oh,
longer, he would have been living in a castle.
yes, true. So we see a lot of segments of these things. We're going back and forth. Some of it's the stuff from their home movies, and some of the stuff is from cartoons and different Disney IP that happened. And it draws to life a couple things for me. One is that that a lot of this stuff is not on Disney+, which everything should be.
Mm-hmm.
Like the 1 hour in Wonderland, we have
Yes.
it featured here, but I can't go watch it on Disney+. Um, and then it shows me like that there's this huge history of Christmas in Disney lore. So I love that. I mean, for me, it's Prep and Landing and Nightmare Before Christmas and Mickey's Christmas Carol, and but going back, it might have been some of these other specials for people, and the Pluto Christmas with Chip and Dale is also one of my favorites to watch. But I think they reference it in here a little bit. But some of this stuff I have no idea. I've never seen, like the Night Before Christmas, but still
And
very cute.
this idea that toys come to life when the humans aren't around
Very
came
original.
back around.
Da 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 da. Yep. Um. So
Look at that rocking horse,
I know.
Mickey. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And
Having Walt
they
Disney for a dad had to be the best.
yep. Well, so here Diane is talking about how like there was all this stuff under the tree, and that tree is enormous. But she said that there were tutus for each of them, and then they were like, "Oh, go in the backyard," and they were looking for something that wasn't there before, and it was this freaking cottage that they built, which she calls a playhouse. But I mean, imagine being the Imagineers, like where Walt goes, "Hey, look, I need you guys to come to my house and build this playhouse
Overnight.
with running water, working telephone. Like this is basically a short guest house is what this is." And again, it was overnight that like, they have to put this in place with all the decorations and everything else. And she's like, and we played with it for several years. And I'm thinking, you should have moved into that thing. That's what you should have done.
Right. That's
Uh,
incredible. I'm
yeah.
sorry to my kids. I don't think they're ever going to get that.
You don't think they are? So it's still a
I mean,
possibility.
I like the idea of it, but we're on a hill with like a ditch behind us, so it would be
Although
hard to do.
Otherwise, you'd have your husband out in the backyard digging like water mains and stuff like that for the
Obviously.
backyard.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah. Um, I don't think anybody had as many different wardrobe phases in their life than Walt Disney, except for maybe the Beatles. Like as we're watching some of this old footage and some of the stuff that he wore along the way, the Walt that we know as the guy from wearing the suit, but some of these cool clothes that we see him wearing back in the day, very neat.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the one of the things that she starts talking about is like how goofy her dad was in like ice skating and and that he was as much goofy as he was Mickey, which I think
So
is kind of
cute.
neat.
I love that
Yeah,
line.
I love this where he falls down and then he kind of catches himself in I guess it's after this, and he catches himself in a push up rather than just like even he's falling with grace.
Yeah.
This is it
Yeah.
right here, I think. Like
No,
wow,
I would
like
be much
that's
more like Bambi.
yep. But in it, and then he gets up and plays it off, and it's just really very very sweet. But this is what I'm talking about. Like this doesn't seem like Christmas as much as this seems like, a
Right.
Walt
Some of it
Disney.
seems just winter in general. So, I mean,
Yeah,
some of this feels like it could have been January or February. It didn't necessarily have to be Christmas.
yeah.
But it's still cute to see, and I appreciate like as much Walt content as I can get.
No, I agree too. I love this part where he's talking to these kids and he's like, "This is what you get for 30 years of being on the good list," or and it's
He doesn't look like he's 30 years old, so what was he doing before then?
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said. And then this skiing part
I
is
know
neat
that's what he said.
because he was part of and I was reading up on this a little bit because this Sugar Bowl Lodge, he was kind of a partner with a guy who started that, and then the guy basically ended up naming a mountain after him. So there is a Mount Disney that the Sugar Bowl Lodge is on, and I think that's
Oh,
cool. But of course, as we
cute.
know, he had the idea that he would create a ski lodge and it would have this bear restaurant show in it, and that never came to be. Even after he passed away, there was still thoughts of that happening, and then they just took the country bears and put them in the Magic Kingdom instead, where they are today. And of course, there's a renovation to that, a new show coming very soon. But at least the bears are staying and not going away. But they were originally intended for a ski lodge that never happened. But this again, he had a tie to skiing. It was something that he liked to do. So, and again, the guy that he was working with that named the mountain after him. So anyway, a lot of neat
That's so
things there.
cool.
That there's too much. There's so much that I want to know, not just about the Disney theme parks and not the movies, but also the man and the history there. And we know a
Right.
lot. We see a lot when we go to watch One Man's Dream, or what used to be the
Mm-hmm.
Walt Disney Story, or what you can see, um, in different documentaries. But like you said, you can't ever get enough Walt content.
Yeah.
Lillian
Especially
seemed like
stuff
she was
like
fun.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't get a lot of Lillian content because a lot of the Walt content you get is about, business stuff. So it's nice to see this side of Walt. I love seeing this.
You know what I didn't realize is that she didn't pass away until 1997. Like that seems weird to me. Like why don't
That's
I
a
remember that happening?
and didn't she get remarried too?
Yes, I believe
Which
she did.
I was like, I
But
had,
go ahead.
I guess until, fairly recent, like, the last few years when I found that out, I had no idea that she ever remarried because I think she just continued to go by Lillian Disney. So um,
I mean,
I
when
had
you
no
get that
idea.
name, why would you let it go? Like Diane Disney Miller.
Right? Yeah. I would have had my husband change my last name if my last name was Disney.
Nope, sorry, you got to keep it. Yep. Um, but again, 1899 for Lillian to 1997, and then Diane and Sharon were his daughters, but Sharon was adopted,
Right.
and Diane was born to Walt and Lillian. But he raised them both together, but also Sharon died very young too. She was
She did.
she was 56, I believe. Yeah, she was 56 when she passed away. She was born in 1936, 3 years after Diane Disney Miller, and she died at the age of 79 in 2013. So she lived a very long life, like her mother.
So
Go ahead.
that means that Lillian outlived Sharon, right? That's very sad.
Yes, correct. So now, again, seeing all these different pieces of Christmas animation wants me to know every bit of all of these things, and go back and watch them. It's really like
I want to
kind of amazing.
I want to watch all of these old cartoons. Like, just put it all on Disney+, please. Don't tease us like this.
But again, that's one of those things where there should be everything. It should be every single solitary thing that Disney has ever done should be on here. Now, I get Song of the South. I get that. If that's too problematic, but there's a lot of problematic content on Disney+, which they just give this big warning, says, "Hey, this was made before we knew what we were doing."
Peter Pan is about as problematic as it gets.
Yes, I agree.
Just put the disclaimer on everything. Or make sure that you're watching with an adult. Make somebody, type in their birthday or whatever. That's what I have to do sometimes with my kids to prove that, an adult
so you can
sanctions.
unlock the good stuff for them? Is that what you do? You unlock the good stuff? Okay. But again, this doesn't feel very Christmas, right? This is more, like you said, winter.
Sleigh.
Yeah, and but there's a lot of hearts in this one. Very cute.
Yeah. I mean, Valentine's Day is also in the winter.
Thank you.
No, but the song is Remember December.
Yeah. Aw. Was that... So cute. This should be your Christmas card next year.
It's not,
but also
my Christmas card.
This bit that they do now where they bring in, again, like this Johnson & Johnson commercial. This is, again, them... kind of reminding you that this is almost like a TV show, the Walt Disney Christmas show.
And what a weird flex! The most trusted name in surgical dressings.
Don't you dare put down Johnson & Johnson. Yeah. And then what is this like? It's the convalescent ward, but it looks like something from like an orphanage almost. Look at this. Like, it looks like jail. Like, what's going on there? This is very strange. There's some of this stuff that's very strange. This was 1951. What were they thinking?
I don't know. When my son was sick and had to spend like a month in the hospital, I spent every night with him. Why are all these kids alone? Where are their parents on Christmas? That's just all I can think about.
Well, and we did the same thing. My son was in the hospital when he was 12, 13, and we kind of did shifts. She would be with him during the day, and I would go work, and then I would come back and spend the night there, and then get up the next day and go back to the office where there was a shower because there used to be a gym. It was really weird. Anyway, Edgar Bergen is on here, but he, like, again, Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy. That was his ventriloquist doll. It was it was a simpler time, I'm assuming. Willie Tyler and Lester was my generation of ventriloquist. I just know these from like history. The Magic Mirror, by the way, so good.
Oh, yeah.
Like that looks like spot on the way that they put that together, right? Like the face squared off and everything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I love that they had the actual voice actress playing Alice as well. That was super cute.
Did you know that the voice actress of Alice is also Wendy?
Yes, I did.
Okay, cool.
But they couldn't have her come in and play Wendy too.
Right.
I mean, the
So the
singing
joke,
voices of Mulan and Jasmine are the same.
yes, Leia Salonga, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way that this happens is Walt's talking about using the magic mirror to keep an eye on his animators to make sure that they keep working. And so then like he looks through the magic mirror, or I guess we're looking through the magic mirror, and you see that they all put on their fire chief helmets, and they start,
As you do.
uh, yeah, and they start playing. How convenient is it that all of his animators know a different instrument? Like there's not like four trombone players that just happen to be there. There's well, it's like he hired the band and then hoped that they could play, that they could animate. Is that what happened? So you got a guy playing the clarinet, the trombone, somebody coming around playing the tuba, the banjo. Although Harper Goff playing the banjo, he actually looks like he knows what he's doing.
I, I mean, Ward Kimball
Ward,
knows what he's doing on the trombone. I don't
do you
know if
think
I
so?
believe Clark Mallory there.
Yeah, I don't think Clark Mallory's playing the
Maybe he's just
clarinet.
he's so animated.
Yeah, I don't think he looks like he's actually playing the clarinet, but yeah, he's like doing this. I think I could probably pull that off. Frank Thomas on piano. I like him, like that overhead shot. That's so goofy. But you know what? Honestly, for
He
for
looks like he's
animators,
playing.
like maybe they couldn't play all these instruments, but for animators, there's Harper Goff, like just digging it, just getting in, just getting it, get it. But for animators, and I think that we've seen this in behind the scenes animation. Animators are actors because they look in the mirror and they see what the facial expressions would be, and they make their own.
Right.
So these guys are. I mean, this is pretty good. You know, I've seen a lot of people in this kind of situation that couldn't pull this stuff off. But it's neat to see
I
the
mean,
animators in this kind of a scene having fun, which again says to me, where is this special and why can't I have it?
maybe Walt put out something in the studio saying like, "Can anyone play an instrument? If so, which ones?" And then he he picked some people who could actually play, and then threw in a few extras, just because they're so animated.
I love that. There's the big note, and then he's like, "Oh, it's the magic mirror." That's how he knows. If you knew the magic mirror was there the whole time, then why would you not have taken precautions? Like throw a sheet over it or something. So in this section of Lady and the Tramp, Diane Disney Miller is talking about how her dad gave Lillian a puppy for Christmas, and so that's quite a responsibility to hand somebody for Christmas, isn't it? I mean, if you're a parent, and by the way, here's that scene from the beginning which had the tag on it, and yeah, so it's the
Yeah.
same one. But apparently, this is exactly how he did it. He put the puppy into a hat box. It was a chow that she ended up loving. Um,
The
but
lady's not a chow.
if you're right, but if you're giving that kind of, if you're a parent and you're getting a puppy for your kid, you guys agree together, we're going to do this, or
Right.
we're getting one for the family. But like to just go, hey, here's a dog. My wife would probably kill me.
Well, in his defense, I'm pretty sure that was before they had the kids.
Hmm.
But yeah, I have clearly stated to my husband that I have no interest in a dog, so I hope he doesn't try to pull this on me.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's quite a responsibility. Pluto's Christmas Tree is one of my favorites. And I love that they give, you have not been in the queue at Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in California. I don't believe. You
No.
may have seen footage of the queue, but they make it look like there are all these props from moments in Mickey's career, and they have props from the Pluto's Christmas where like Chip and
Aw.
Dale get on the mantle, and I don't know. It's very well done,
That's
and I
so
love
cute.
this in general. This is one of my favorites. We have matching shirts. I actually should have worn it. As a family that have the Chip and Dale scene on the front. It came from Shop Disney one year, and as soon as I saw them, I bought them all, and we all have them. So It's a very good short. I'm a very big fan of that one, and that's one that I pretty much watch every Christmas. There's a lot of stuff that's not Disney that I watch every Christmas. I'm sure there's stuff that you watch, but like SpongeBob's Christmas, Santa's Coming Tonight
Nope.
Tonight, got Invader Zim Christmas.
Nope.
What do you watch? I watch Prep and Landing. You watch that one?
That. Yes.
Okay. Any others? The
Um,
Grinch.
No, I don't. I mean, I've seen The Grinch, but I wouldn't say that's one I have to watch every year. Elf, you know,
I was thinking more the like the short form, but
Scrooged.
yeah, Elf and Scrooge. Those are two good ones. Which Christmas Carol do you watch? There's only one right answer.
Muppets.
There you go. That's the right answer.
And we've watched it like 18 times this season already.
Oh, have you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Kids are obsessed with it.
'Tis the season to be holly and jolly. Yeah. It's light the lamp, not the rat.
And
Light the
then-
lamp, not the rat.
Because they're so obsessed with the Muppets Christmas Carol, I think we watched Muppets Treasure Island like came on after it, and they're like, why is Mr. Scrooge dressed like a pirate? I just assume there's a human here with the Muppets, and therefore
That's
he
gotta
must be Mr. Scrooge.
Yeah. I love that they touch on this stuff. Getting back to this special, the time that Walt and team spent in South America, that part, and then also the war effort part that they touch on those things because the stuff where Walt went, for like the goodwill trip to, and they ended up doing Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros. And then there was the war effort stuff. They did a movie with Donald. It was called Victory Through Air Power. But it's neat that when Diane Disney Miller was talking about this part, where she's saying that this is where Walt kind of really fell in love with Mary Blair's work, which is probably then what catapulted her into all of the stuff that she did for It's a Small World and all the other Disney stuff. So here's the part about the war effort. And how they have this little newsreel about the military's taken over Disney Studios.
Yeah,
And,
my grandfather used to be a docent at the Pacific, or they call it the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum now. So he had a plane there with, Donald Duck painted on the side of it, and I've got a T-shirt of it. I love it. So very interesting because that all happened December 7th, day which will live in infamy. So last week.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of stuff that happened in December. I believe Walt passed in December, as a matter of fact.
He did, yeah.
And then he was born in December, and then Pearl Harbor, and also Diane Disney Miller was born. Because she mentions
like
that. She mentions she was born just before Christmas. She talks about that early on. She was born December 18th. So really close to Christmas. I always freak out.
No.
No? What?
No, because, so my birthday was yesterday. My son's birthday is next Tuesday, which is the 19th. My husband's birthday is the 22nd, and my dad's birthday is the 23rd. So that's close to Christmas.
You're right.
My dad's got it bad.
What do you think about this part, this little story?
It's cute.
Yeah. Then the rejoicing begins, the feasting, the celebrating, and finally the biggest surprise of all, breaking the piñata. It's very cute. So again, thank you guys for watching along with us. And if you're still watching along, let me just check. And no, Desi, don't freak out. There's no trivia. I'm looking at 21.
I hope not.
I'm looking at the time left, and I've got 21:06, 21:05. So I think we're about at the right place. Just again, if you guys are watching with us, and we hope you are, but again, give us a thumbs up if you haven't already. I love this part too, that the Mouseketeers entertaining I guess the troops and the saddle shoes and the dancing, like,
So cute.
yeah. And Annette doing her little ballet dancing.
Is that ballet? I guess so.
They're ballet shoes. I'm just throwing it generically into, like I know. I mean, she's wearing little ballet slippers and standing on point, so that's why I threw that in there. But look at all the kids and just how excited they are about it. I can't imagine. These guys must have been rock stars at the time.
Yeah.
The Musketeers. And then there's some
Santa
of them
was there too. Everyone wants his autograph.
Yes, it's got to spell it right though. This is my Walt. This is the Walt I remember, and maybe because all the flashback footage we always see is from, from him at that time, because that's when he was recording Disneyland, the TV show, all the stuff that he did in Disneyland. He's always like the man in the gray suit like that. Swiss Family Robinson is a movie that, have you ever watched this movie all the way through? We should probably review it, actually. I mean, not necessarily you, but like for Deep in the Plus, we should review it at some point. But have you watched it before?
I have not. I feel like I should, especially now that they kind of sort of brought it back in Disneyland. Well, I mean, we still have it here at Walt Disney World.
Yeah. At Disney World, it's the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse, but in Disneyland, it's the Adventureland treehouse inspired by. That's because that's what they do these days. It's the Adventureland treehouse inspired by the Swiss Family Robinson. This kid played in so many Disney things. He was a Musketeer too. I think his name was like Moochie or something like that. And he was in the Shaggy Dog and a lot of the Disney stuff at the time. So, but again, feels like a reach that this is Christmas stuff, right? The whole movie is not about, right, but the whole movie is not about Christmas. They're just showing this little section of it that has to do with Christmas. But it would, if you didn't know it, you might think this was like a Christmas movie. Don't.
Honestly, because I haven't seen it yet, I was like, oh, I had no idea that this was a Christmas movie.
It's not.
Okay. Good to know.
But I love the fact that, when they're talking about this piano, that she was like, oh, thanks for, you did such a great job, like, salvaging this piano.
And, yeah, brought it up out of the ocean and only one key is out of tune.
Probably pretty typical. Yep. And then here come the gang. They made it back safely.
Yay.
So definitely something we should put on the list. It is a classic, and if you think about the fact that it has had, an attraction created after it, is definitely something that we should be talking about in Deep in the Plus. This one, those Callaways, I'm not familiar with this one. I think I may have heard of this before, but it's definitely not something that I've watched before. I think that dude, the dude who's like the dad in this, is from Family Affair. Is that right? And you're like, I don't know what that is, Rob.
But I like her speculating on what it could be.
I know, that's the worst. If my kids were doing that, I would have a heart attack. Oh, is this the 10,000 piece Lego set that I wanted, or is this I'd be like freaking out, going, oh, just stop gassing and open before you break my heart.
I didn't get you any of those things you wanted.
Yeah. Brian Keith is the guy there who is playing the dad, but he was on a TV show called Family Affair. And then when she opens it up, and it looks, I don't know what this is, by the way. Is it a fur coat?
It looks like a fur coat.
Because then when she pulls it out, she brings it up to her face and starts crying in it. And I'm like, oh.
Which you should not do.
No, that'll mess up the fur right there.
And
I don't know much about fur coats. Yeah.
She looks like she's got makeup on.
There you go. Wipe your face with a very expensive coat. Just get all up in there. I don't know what that could be, but like, I like the part where the grandfather turns here and goes, don't you know the difference between happy tears and sad tears? And the kid's like, she doesn't like it. What did you do? But again, I guess we're just. What I'm saying is, this
I don't
seems
know why
such.
she's crying over it.
We
I need
don't
more
know because we didn't
context.
watch it. Yeah, we do need more context. Although, see the Happiest Millionaire. Oof, oof. See, now the funny part is about Happiest Millionaire is we reviewed it because Patrick and I every year, because he is Patrick, we review something on St. Patrick's Day, and this was listed as a St. Patrick's Day film. Yet here they're featuring it as a
Interesting.
Christmas film.
Really?
So,
I like
yeah,
this
they
pocket scarf.
well, of course.
It's
But if you
embroidered.
were to search for like, Disney and St. Patrick's Day, they list this one because he's like, I guess, famously Irish in this. But we did a
Or
review
he's
of it for St.
lucky.
Patrick's Day. We also did Luck of the Irish, which was that decom where the kid turns into a
Yeah, not as good as Brink.
yeah. The people have spoken and they think it is. So I love that how much of a commercial this is. And I assume this was like in content, like, like that's the thing where, now people use content as advertising, with influencers and everything. Walt's the original influencer right here. You can see it. And
Yeah.
talking about Kodak, what's Kodak
This must
anymore,
have
right?
been.
I mean, you remember Kodak sponsored the Journey into Imagination Pavilion. They had all the Kodak photo spots around the park. They sold exclusively Kodak film. Yeah, it was a big deal. So, just to hear him talking about Eastman Kodak and then also being in the parade, that was pretty neat. This part I had no knowledge of, but it makes sense that they would go, hey, we want to put on a huge spectacular for the Olympics. Who should we contact? Duh.
Right.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like, the Olympics, I don't think are typically in December, right? Like, if you're
No,
going
no,
to
no.
have.
None of this has been. Like the Callaway's thing, I'm sure that was just a bit. And the same thing with the Happiest Millionaire. Like I said, we know that as, like, if you look it up, as a Thanksgiving. I'm not Thanksgiving, as a St. Patrick's Day. And then here's the Olympics. So like, what does any of it really have to do? Some of it's like, what does it have to do with Walt? That the Callaway's, Swiss Family Robinson, the Happiest Millionaire. What does that have
Right.
to do with Walt and Christmas? And then now this thing is Walt, but it's not Christmas. So,
Yeah.
but he looks
It's
very
just, it's
different
winter.
here too. Yeah.
He
I
looks
mean, he looks.
old here.
He does, but also, he's in. And why does this guy feel like he could put his arm around Walt Disney? How dare you, sir?
I
How
think
dare you
the guy
put your arm around him?
narrating is this guy, and he says that he was picked by Walt to be the guy. So Walt must like him. I'm sure he had his
It
consent.
doesn't matter. You don't touch the king. I'm sorry, you just don't. That's
All right,
unacceptable.
so when you go take your picture with Walt the Dreamer in Epcot, you're telling me you're not going to put your arm around him?
I have a problem with that too. Like I saw a woman like pushing off of that statue, and I'm like, no, push off the bench. Don't push off the statue.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Yeah, no, you don't do that. I don't know. Let's have some decorum here, folks. Also, those rings, and I don't know if it's because I'm watching a Disney special, those rings just keep looking like hidden Mickeys. Because you've got the
they
2
are.
at the bottom and the 4 at the top. And Art Linkletter, by the way, famously, again, he was the guy who when Disneyland opened, he was like the main commentator with Ronald Reagan, and then Walt Disney was in on a bunch of that. As they were narrating what was happening in the park for opening day. Apparently, that Disney gave him a cut of the money that Kodak was making them for film in the parks, and that's how he got paid, and apparently made a ton of money off of that because of how much film got sold in Disney parks. I love the part right here where he says, "Get yourself a nice seat on the curb." And the guy says, "I could use a nice, comfortable curb right now." What does that mean? A nice, comfortable curb. What are you trying to say,
being
dude?
sarcastic.
I could go for a nice comfortable curb. There's nothing comfortable
Also,
about a hard backless area where you're sitting down. That makes no sense.
you see Walt
Also what?
Disney's there, and your question to him is, "Hey, where can we go to see the parade?" Like
Well, I
if
mean,
you're either way you put it, if your question is where do I sit to go look at the parade, why is Walt Disney the person you ask? You couldn't ask any other cast member. You had to go up to Walt himself. And second up, if you actually did want to go up to Walt and say something, why is your one thing you're going to ask him, where can I sit for the parade?
yeah. Agree. So they were just talking about the Christmas windows at May Company or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge deal for my dad when we lived in D.C. to take us downtown to D.C. to see the Christmas windows. That was a big deal back in the day, is department stores and the Christmas windows, and we see a little bit of that. You and I were talking about Elf. You see a little bit of that in Elf, where he's
Mm-hmm.
like doing the window decoration and he falls asleep in the window. That's a big thing. I don't think they take that as seriously on Main Street anymore as they maybe a little bit at Disneyland, but Disney World, those windows, I feel like every time should be on point. They don't really
Yeah.
do enough of a big deal about it.
Yeah.
There were two
A lot of
windows.
it's just advertising.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. There were two windows right outside the middle of the Emporium, and and like one, the last time I was there, one had Little Mermaid on it, coming September 19th, and the other one had Peter Pan and Wendy. That's a waste of space. I don't know why you do that. I like that
Waste.
you're trying to tie
Waste.
in some Disney+ stuff, but come on. Oh, by the way, this footage we're seeing now with the dogs and the parade,
What?
um, yeah,
You
yeah,
could
it's
never
crazy.
get away with that now.
Any of
Or
this,
that
the
fire looks like it comes really close
yeah, and
or
some of
might
it,
actually touch.
you couldn't get away with, and some of it looks so dangerous, like, you know. And this is again where Diane's like, "Oh, we had a great view from the apartment above the." I'm sure you did, like
With
above the
our dear little
firehouse.
Christmas tree.
Yes, yes, their dear little Christmas tree. Um, But anyway, there is a review that we did of Disneyland around the seasons. I believe that Tom and I did that review for Deep in the Plus. If you want to check it out, we also did that watch along style, and in that one there is that full parade, and it's so funny how budget it is compared to the nice things they do today that you would never see
Mm-hmm.
now in Disneyland. And on top of that, the things like you said that you would never see anymore, the dogs being
No.
in the parade, or the fire, or whatever else. And some of this stuff too is a little I feel very uncomfortable about a lot of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I do find it interesting, though, that a lot of the countries that they are calling out here are countries like England. I mean, technically it's the UK pavilion, but it's like everything that they're calling out winds up having a place in World Showcase later on. Well,
Well,
not
the Soviet
Finland, sorry,
I was about to say, and the Soviet
but
Union, right,
Norway.
just walked by.
Yeah,
That animal, whatever it was, did not like being carted through the streets for sure. But again, this is 1965.
Mexico.
I'm surprised that there wasn't a higher level, but of quality to some of this stuff. It it looks like some of this
China.
stuff was made in somebody's basement,
Aw. It might
and
be
maybe
that
it
the
was.
people
Maybe it was.
representing the country put together their own floats.
Very well could be. Yeah.
Japan. See, all of these countries, a good
The
portion of
bear.
these countries
The
wound up
bear.
being. And she doesn't mention what country this is, but I thought, well, maybe it's Morocco. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, camels through the streets. You know, it's very interesting. I was so behind the attraction season 2. I don't know if you've watched any of that or not. There's a whole thing on fireworks and parades. I was watching that today, and they were talking about how um, uh, the Tokyo Main Street Electrical Parade was 45 minutes. I'm like, who's standing around watching a
What?
45-minute parade? Watch it. They said I was
I
shocked.
would.
Right, right. Right now they're talking about the candlelight processional, which I got to be honest with you, I didn't know that there was a Disney land version because I have always gone to Disney World, and Disney World always had the candlelight processional at Epcot, and I was like, oh, it
Right.
makes sense that that's where it started. And we talked about this on Park Center last week, like when you can get bigger stars in California because it's California and they live there. And so, meanwhile, Neil Patrick Harris is a pretty big deal. John Stamos, some of the ones that we get
I
at Epcot.
mean, they should have never had John Stamos come out the same day that they debuted that Walt statue. Chaos.
Yeah, well,
So
I mean, it was his
crowded.
birthday. What are you going to do? This is classic footage, too, of him, like, swinging into the crowd and then swinging back, driving his own little car. That was cute.
You notice he's not swinging around once he's got his grandchildren, though.
Yep.
He was swinging around with other people's kids.
Again, just imagine what it must have been like to be at Disneyland and to see Walt Disney in the parade or
This
walking
looks
through the
like a
park or
children's version of Mardi Gras, throwing things out.
oh, by the
Kids
way,
like, oh.
yeah, the balloons. We don't do that in
No,
2023.
couldn't do that anymore.
No, there's a lot of stuff like that. We don't do that anymore. Um, but again, it's the home movie stuff is very sweet. I love
I
that. I
love
love
it.
getting her take on it. Diane Disney Miller talking about her dad very fondly. I love that part of it. But again, some of the stuff that we get to see in here, like the Nutcracker Suite from Fantasia, like why? Because nutcrackers are a Christmas thing, I guess. I don't know. There's just so much of it that didn't seem Christmas, and there was so much of it that didn't seem Walt. And so Christmas with Walt Disney, maybe not the
Yeah.
best title for this, but also, but I
They could have split
guess,
this up into two different shows. One where you actually focus on what it was like to have Walt as a dad growing up,
yeah,
and another that's like, look at all these clips from different movies that
yeah,
are Christmassy. I don't
yeah. I mean, I'm not balking at the content at all. I love that this is here, and I assume this was played at, you know, well, I was going to say, I assume this was played at the Walt Disney Museum. I've never been. I would love to go. That's on my
Me
bucket list
too.
of Disney locations is the Walt Disney Museum. His first home in Chicago, I think, has just been renovated. Marceline, I want to go there.
Hmm.
Um, and I also still want to go to all the, the parks overseas and Alani, and like there's so many places I haven't gotten to go, but definitely that Walt Disney Museum is one that I would love to go to at some point. So I was gonna say I imagine this played there, but also would you have a 50-minute presentation at any given time? And maybe it would have just been during the holidays because of it being Christmas with Walt Disney.
It might
I
be
don't know.
one of those things that they have like on a loop rather than sit here and watch it. Just kind of one of those things where you can come in and come and go as you please.
Do you remember
I
the
don't know.
the Maelstrom? I assume you do.
Yes, I
So
do.
when you would leave
And I
the
remember
Maelstrom,
running to get out of the
yeah, the theater
movie
to watch that
before
movie. Exactly. Yeah,
before the doors closed.
the very first time you go, you would like go, okay, well, I guess we're staying here and we're gonna watch this movie, and then you see people walking out, and you're like, oh, can we do that? Can we walk out? And do we have to see this again? It's like I've done my time. I've seen this movie once. You hear people go, do not get rid of Impressions de France. You never heard anybody say, don't get rid of the Norway movie.
No.
And I mean, and again, eventually they just opened up the doors and they let people out, and they just let people walk through. Sometimes they would show the movie while you were walking through, and you could sit and watch it. That was probably the best way to do it. And sometimes they wouldn't. Um, but yeah, I again, this one was so kind of all over the place that I felt like we needed to kind of watch it along with it rather than just play, just talk about it,
Right.
because I feel like there's, a lot of different nuances to this one because of, in and out of content that's on there, and um, the Walt stuff and the, Diane narrating it. I'm looking at like the end card of um, The Happiest Millionaire and On Ice 1935 and Bambi 1942 and all the things that they're referencing in it, and there was a lot of content referenced in this one. So, all right, well, you know what? Thank you for watching through that with us. We appreciate it, and Desi, thanks for recommending it to me for us to watch. So I'm going to ask you the big question in a second, but I want to say thank you to our WIGS members. We love our WIGS, the WDWNT Interglobe Society. Thank you guys so much for being members of the family. If you want to learn more about it, go to patreon.com/WDWNT to find out how to become a member of our Patreon group. And then I want to give kind of a heads up of what we've got coming up. We just had Duck the Halls, Patrick and I did last week. And then the week before that, Stephanie and I did Robin Hood, the original 1973. But we're in full Christmas swing now. Here we are doing Christmas with Walt Disney. And then next week, we're going to end our season with a Muppets Christmas Letters to Santa. Allison will be here to do that one with me. And then the 27th, we're taking off, but we're coming back on January 3rd. So we're only taking a week off. And I hope everybody has a great Christmas, a great holiday season. And we appreciate you spending some time with us. Anything else from you, Desi? Before we get into the final? No?
No. Tune in to Tony's party tomorrow.
All right. So we've talked about this special. We watched it together as a group. But if someone were to come up to you on the street and say, hey, Desi, I heard that there was this Christmas with Walt Disney. My question to you is, would you recommend this special?
I think it depends on the person. I think the majority of people just walking up off the street, if my husband asked me, should he watch it? I'm probably going to say no, to be honest, because it's not his jam. If you are somebody who loves Disney, loves Walt specifically, then yes. I mean, I loved it. I got a ton of enjoyment out of it. I love, like I mentioned, I love all of the Walt content I can get. So for crazy people, maybe like you and me and all of our WIGS members, probably the people who are watching this, yes. But for the majority of people, probably not. They can probably skip it. I can't imagine just a random person watching this and getting too much enjoyment out of it, because it is a little disjointed and weird, and doesn't make a ton of sense all the time. And so, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to say that I agree with you 100%. I don't think it's for everybody, but you said something at the top of the show, which is like, always give me more Walt content. I learn a little more each time I rewatch something, and a little more each time I see something new like this. So I enjoyed it. I know I was cracking fun at some of the things through it, but that's kind of what we do. But in general, I appreciate that this exists, and that exists on Disney+. And I say to Disney+, do more of these documentary style things with Walt. I love seeing behind the scenes stuff from the parks. I love seeing behind the scenes stuff from Walt. I love seeing behind the scenes stuff from movies. Give me more of this content. I love it. But, my wife loves documentaries. So for her, she liked watching this. But, to your point, if you don't like documentaries, and if you don't like, if you're not a huge Disney fan, it may not be for you. And I definitely wouldn't recommend it to kids to watch, but I think there are other pieces of Walt content out there that they could watch to kind of get a feel for him. But, let us know in the comments what you think. I mean, for those of you who sat and watched it with us, you've got a little bit more knowledge of it now. So definitely let us know what you think, and we want to hear from you. Again, don't forget to join us next week for Muppets Letters to Santa, and then join us for Park Center this Sunday night as well, and of course, News Tonight tomorrow night. Thank you, Desi, for doing this. I appreciate it, for looking all holly and jolly and inspiring me to do so as well. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your week, and we will see you next time.
Bye.